Welcome, my friends, to the Bob and Brad podcast, produced by Bob and Brad, the two most famous physical therapists on the internet. I am exactly one half of the Bob and Brad team, and I'm Bob, and I am joined today by Jordan, who is a nutrition coach and a fitness instructor, and I'm joined by on my right here by Mike. He's actually part of the Bob and Brad crew. And they got their own channel, which they do review of Bob and Brad products and other products.
Yep.
Fitness products. So today the title of our program today is Why I Went Back on the Keto Diet, which is Mike, why he went back on it. And we're hoping to, give you some advice for a beginner's guide. And then we have some extra advice here too, because Jordan,
your elbows are shaking the camera.
Oh, sorry. Jordan has worked with people who have been on the keto diets and with her vast knowledge. So Jordan, why don't we start with you? Just give your background a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So started out kind of my whole, professional career in the fitness industry. Soon decided I wanted to get a little bit more honed in on nutrition because I found that to be, that's where my passions lie. So anyways, I went on to get my master's in human nutrition. I'd like to clarify right from the get-go, I decided to go the non-dietetics route. So I am not a registered dietitian. So the difference between me and a dietitian is I'm not clinical. I can't work in a clinical setting. I can't do diagnostic work, anything like that. But I did go through a master's program, and I've worked in the fitness and nutrition field for about 10 years now. And I guess just relating into, so that's kind of my educational professional background, but relating into the keto diet, I'll just say right from the get-go, I have actually never gone on the keto diet. I tend to follow a very low carbohydrate diet just due to the whole foods nature that I follow. So I'm not pumping my body with lots of carbs, but I've never gone in full-blown ketosis before. But I have worked with a lot of clientele over the years that have gone on the keto diet, have had a lot of success with it. So I've not have personal opinion experience, but at least the background with working with a lot of different populations.
That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Mike, why don't you give your back? I mean, Mike's a physical therapist assistant.
Yeah. So I have no training from school on diet or nutrition. I've just been curious about it through my 20s, and now I'm in my 30s, and I've just read a lot, tried lots of different diet approaches. I was just like a very overweight kid until high school. And then I've always read more about nutrition, eventually found keto diet like 6 years ago and thought it was absolutely weird. And I started it basically based off curiosity. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I have never been on a keto diet, but I am like Jordan in that I went to a diet, not a diet per se. I just started eating way less carbs and certainly way less processed sugar foods. And I mean, without trying, I lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And it was mostly around the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really quite amazing, to be honest with you. But so why don't we start off with it? One of you want to talk about what the keto diet is?
Do you want to go or you want me to do it?
Sure. I can, give I'm into like simple things, but it's a very, very low to no carbohydrate diet. And I don't know about you, Mike, but I don't like to find it as no carbohydrates, but incredibly, incredibly reduced carbohydrate diets, high fat.
That's what it is. I mean, there are like a few niche categories of like zero carb, but that's a whole different animal.
Because the standard, isn't it 5% carbs?
5 to 10. And the amount of carbs are going to vary upon the individual. So someone that is more like obese, diabetic, more insulin sensitive is going to have way less carbs. So through a lot of like the research studies, they'll stick them on a total of like 20 grams a day. Where me, who's younger and active, like I know I can eat 50 grams a day of carbs total, and I still stay in ketosis just fine.
Yeah, I think metabolism, has a ton to do with, it's just not like hard concrete number. So
Typically ranges. So like the ranges would be, anywhere from 80% fat down to 65% fat. Typically they say 75% fat, 20% protein and 5% carbs is like the standard recommendation, but they can all vary slightly.
Yep.
So there's like a version with athletes where they tend to increase their carbs around workouts. Isn't that
Yeah,
one?
there's different approaches to it. So there's cyclical keto, which is more like a bodybuilding niche type
Sure.
thing where they'll have carbs, once a week or once every other week to get some muscle glycogen so they can train harder. There's also an approach called targeted keto where they'll just consume like 30 grams of carbs right before their workout. So basically, they digest the carbs, utilize it for energy, and after the workout, within an hour, they're like right back in ketosis. And then there's, a standard keto diet is just you're always in ketosis.
And I should say this, the studies that were done on the keto diet were basically done on the standard one.
Yeah.
And also, I think maybe a little bit on the high protein one, but
yeah,
the other ones had not been studied. So, we can't really
yeah.
speak
If
to
you
the
have
benefits of
medical issues, it's the standard is the recommended one that's
Right.
being studied a lot.
So what are ketones and what is ketosis?
So ketosis is basically a thing your body goes into
It's a metabolic state.
Yeah, it's a metabolic state your body goes into when you do not have glucose and carbs as your main energy source. So you can get in this way, if you're just fasting in general, or like say you're stuck on an island and you have no food and all you have is water, you're going to get in ketosis. What ketosis does is it produces ketone bodies in your body. Your body produces ketone bodies,
which are a chemical.
Yeah, it's typically from your liver. They'll start creating them. They will start breaking down your stored fat for energy. That's what it is.
Instead of carbs. So
yeah.
they start using fat for fuel.
Yeah. So nutritional ketosis, you can get in ketosis eating food still. You don't have to starve yourself. But you basically, to do this, you have to keep your carbs low.
Now, we should say right here, too, this is not ketoacidosis. That's something that diabetics get, correct, Jordan?
Correct, yes.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And ketosis is not dangerous.
No.
So, all right. What are some of the benefits of the keto diet? Jordan, you want to name some?
Sure, yeah. So big thing in terms of like the population that I worked with, I would say like when I did nutrition coaching full time, I was working more with general population, which let's just be blunt and honest, the general population isn't overly healthy in the United States. Right. So I was working with a lot of weight loss clients. So big thing with that drove people towards the keto diet is weight loss. Why? Because it works. It works just as Mike explained, when your body is burning fat for fuel. So we have excess fats. There we go. So weight loss is a big thing. I like to talk a lot about it in terms of brain power. So when your body is not reliant on carbohydrates, it's just burning ketones is just a cleaner burning process in the body. I guess that's the best way I have to describe it. And your brain really likes that. Your brain loves ketones and being fueled off that. So really good benefits just in terms of, I'll just say brain health in general. There's a fancy term called neuroplasticity, but I don't know how much we want to get into that, but just our brain's ability to heal and make new connections and all of that. So I always think when I think keto diet, I think like brain health and weight loss. And I don't know, those are kind of the ones off the top of my head.
Until I did a little research on this, I didn't realize that was one of the benefits is that it supplies energy for your brain. Better than the other ones. It gets through the brain barrier there. And
so like personally for me, like what I would notice from a ketogenic diet is when I ate more carbs, even if it was like, 200 grams a day or something, I would have constant energy sways up and down. Like I'd have real good energy, a couple hours. I'd feel satiated and fine for a couple, 2-3 hours. And then I'd start to get hungry. And like when I was eating this way, I was still having, a good amount of protein. It's not like I was eating, I'd say when I was calculating, it was like 35% of my calories were from carbs. I'd still get these insulin sways and it would be harder for me to focus on things. I would almost have like, they're looking at psychiatrists are even starting to look at ketogenic diet and the way it affects your brain, because people with ADD, have claims like I can focus better now. They're also looking at it with like hard drug addicts and rerouting their brain and the way they think. There's psychiatrists doing that now. Is another good benefit. Also, there's been a lot of research on heart health with it. They've actually like had external heart models running off ketones. And actually they say the heart prefers to run off ketones. And your body actually produces ketones even if you're not in a ketogenic state. It's a pretty low amount.
Sure. And I getting back to that brain thing, they think it may slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, some of these neurologists like Dr. Perlmutter, I know, they are calling it type 3 diabetic or diabetes because your brain basically can't use glucose for energy anymore.
interesting.
I think it's Dr. Perlmutter that wrote Brain Maker.
He's written a bunch. I know Grain Brain is
one specifically on more like ketogenic style diet and like Alzheimer's. I think it's called Brain Maker, but anyways.
Oh.
Yeah, he's written a lot, I know.
There's a lot of.
I also saw where it maybe would help with traumatic brain injuries, improve
really?
their outcomes. Yeah. So it's like you said, it's a brain thing more than I realized.
This is one of the few diets that, is categorized under fad now because it became popular basically through marketing of food industries. That's how it became fad. But it's one of the diets that is really being researched a bunch within like the last 20 years. Like there's been so many different universities and research groups that are looking at different aspects of this eating and like the benefits it can have.
Well, we'd be remiss here if we didn't talk a little bit about the possible downsides, precautions, side effects. So first, since you were on it, Mike, why don't you talk about, is it brain fog? Or
so adapting to the ketogenic diet is not always the easiest thing for some people. You go through basically carb withdrawals, essentially is what it is. So you can have, a couple days in for me, I feel fine yet when I start, running out fats and ketones. I still have muscle glycogen I am burning through. So your body has 2,000 calories worth of muscle glycogen you have to burn through before you start creating ketones. So what typically happens is once you kind of burn through these muscle glycogen stores, you actually start excreting a lot of water through urine. And along with this muscle glycogen and water stores, you're losing a bunch of electrolytes. So if you're not replenishing them and being conscious of it, you're going to get really low levels of sodium, potassium, which typically lead to a lot of these keto flu symptoms, basically. So that can be things like headache, trouble concentrating, just very tired. It can lead to heart palpitations. There's a large amount of side effects, and people hear, I thought I was supposed to feel good on this diet, and they're 3 days into it and they're feeling miserable. And it's this adaptation phase you kind of have to get through. And once you're through it, it feels good. But yeah, that's kind of the biggest side effect early on of it.
Yeah, Jordan, what have your experience been with the clients you've worked with?
Yeah. So one thing that I always like to mention when I hear keto diet is people can do the keto diet, but have such a poor diet still. So I always use this example.
Right.
Could you go in ketosis eating hot dogs and cheese, Kraft singles, like processed nasty cheese? You go in ketosis doing that? 100%. You absolutely, your body could. Could you wait? Yeah, you could. But are you healthy? Are you meeting your nutrient needs? No. So that's from a nutritional standpoint. That's where my biggest hang up is with people is educating, like you can still eat vegetables. Like I don't know what it is in the keto community where it became where all of a sudden all vegetables are off limits and all we're eating is dairy, high fat dairy products. And I don't know where that came from. So my biggest, I guess, where I get kind of like riled up about it is when people do it incorrectly and just eat a bunch of, for lack of a better word, just crap food and use it as an excuse to eat all that stuff. So, or like the marketed like keto products out there that are like, oh, keto chips, like what are those,
Right.
So it'd be really healthy if we do it in a whole foods way, but there's a lot of like miscommunication and miseducation and like that side of things. And then I just kind of like to touch on too, like why I haven't done it, because that might be a question. Like, okay, I know about it. I know all these benefits. Well, why in the nutrition world? And why the heck haven't I done it? My personal like viewpoint too, and I think this speaks more to like females because we think more, guys. But anything,
Yeah.
right. But anything that you can just become like obsessive over that makes me like a little nervous with like the female clientele. I think it's great, but like myself, I sit and I live and breathe fitness and nutrition. So I try to have a little healthy balance with food and not counting things. That's my own personal
I don't
thing.
like to count things either, to be honest.
If you're a person who has a diet history, like the up, down, and you get all in at one time and you have a hard time with counting things, you just get consumed, I think that can be bad for the mental health side of things. So yeah. I don't like to go without mentioning that, although I'm all for the keto diet. I just think anything where we become obsessive and that's all we can think about, that's not healthy either. So anyways, that's my rant.
You're basically monitoring the macros, right, Mike? And you want to tell them what macros are?
Yeah, so your macros are your fats, proteins, carbohydrates. In a keto diet, you don't necessarily have to monitor super strictly, like if you don't like to, but you just kind of want to be aware of your total overall carb intake, essentially.
Sure.
And depending upon how good or bad you feel is going to vary depending upon, maybe you're not getting enough fats, maybe you're missing out on some of these vitamins and minerals. I noticed like when I started keto, what you were describing earlier, they term dirty keto is its terminology. And
right.
Yeah, that's like the really processed food stuff. And, for some of these, someone like, from my background, like before this, I was eating, chicken, rice, oatmeal, eggs. Like I wasn't eating American diet, but I was still running off carbs. So, I kind of knew, I'm going to feel better eating more whole food stuff and having like maybe a keto treat periodically, but not making it a staple in my diet.
Right.
And so, these people that are going from standard American to keto, it's like, they're basically, still eating their foods, but they're just removing the carb sources from it.
Right.
And if
really unhealthy.
Yeah. And what it does is like some people, it benefits them to start it. And then once they get into the adaptation, then there's a time to let's start getting some better food supplies in there and still be in ketosis,
Right.
Like that's what I like. That I personally,
I'm sure that was Jordan's challenge.
Yeah. Because I know Dr. Eric Westman he's a big
no.
He's the associate professor of nutrition at Duke, and he's been running like a ketogenic clinic for like 13 years.
Okay.
Eating keto for 20 years, but Duke is in an area of the South that people have low income and they don't know a lot of knowledge. So he's like, the best thing I found for them is I give them a sheet of paper of all the keto friendly foods and I tell them pick what they want to start. Sure. And he says, do it for 30 days, pick what you want, what you like. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And then once they get adapted, he'll start trying to eat better things. But he's so fascinating because he goes, I have these people that are eating these, dirty keto foods. And he's like, I look at their blood work and it's so weird because I can't tell if they're eating it. Just having the lack of the insulin and the processed food and sugar, they're still getting better.
Sure.
So, but, he says, if you can clean it up, eat cleaner.
But that's one of the concerns too, is that the long-term effects of eating some of the bad, dirty keto would not be apparent right away.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're constantly getting monitored,
right.
Your blood work, your
cancer risk. I mean, that's hard to know unless you've had long-term studies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm afraid we're going to have to probably cut off today. We're going to have to continue this on another day without a doubt, because there's a lot more we can discuss.
Yeah.
And we'll do that. So, monitor our channel and our podcast and look for the future information on keto again. So thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you again.